Hello everyone! Please sign this waiver before proceeding any further. Once again, I have inundated myself with an onslaught of obscure and underground animation. And just like my last video covering such misfits, these specimens are more than worthy of a viewing or two, but they're not the strongest scripts either. And before you shout blasphemy, I feel it imperative to inform you that I did enjoy every single one of these films, and I do recommend them. Besides, these films are highly regarded in their respective regions, so I don't think some asshole on the internet, me, is gonna change the public perception of any of these pieces. This is just my assessment of them. So, without further ado, we're off to the races. The Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. Holy fuck, this movie is awesome. Well, mostly awesome. And what's nice about it is there's really nothing crazy I can spoil about it. There's no big twists or turns, it's pretty straightforward. This film comes to us from 1975 Norway, and it's the most viewed and beloved piece of cinema from that country. They even have a life-size replica of the race car from the film. It's huge over there. It centers around three flatmates who live atop the cliff. The old wise inventor slash bicycle repairman Theodore, the spunky rapscallion Sonny, and the cowardly pessimistic Lambert. When one of Theodore's old blueprints for a specced-out race car lands in the hands of oil tycoon and not very subtle child trafficker Abdul Ben Bonanza, holy shit man, he insists on getting Theodore to let him finance his creation of the car and sponsor him in the upcoming Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. Meanwhile, one of Theodore's old apprentices, Rudolph Gore Slimy, who's also competing in the Grand Prix, tries to sabotage Theodore's chances of winning. But seriously, with a name like Gore Slimy, how did you not know he would turn out to be evil? The first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes of this movie are nothing short of incredible. I dare even say masterful. Unfortunately, the entire middle portion of this movie is such a slog to get through. It's filled with endless padding and filler, dialogue consistently repeating the same exposition as if we didn't already understand what's happening, and extremely drawn-out scenes that completely demolish the pacing. Now, to be completely fair, there aren't any plot holes or inconsistencies, which is a big thing for me, and the fact that this movie gets away scot-free in that regard is a miracle in and of itself. But pacing matters too. It's the momentum of the narrative, and this film utterly destroys its momentum until its third act. Story may be intact from a technical standpoint, but it's needlessly bloated. As far as character is concerned, however, I fucking love these three. Theodore, Sonny, and Lambert are just delightful. Goddamn delightful. Theodore is a dignified yet whimsical soul that loves the pursuit of invention. He's extremely humble and all too modest about how much of a genius he is. He's like if Mr. Rogers had a master's degree in engineering. Sonny is a little firecracker, constantly excited and enthusiastic about the world around him, a real carpe diem type personality. Also a bit of a pervert. What the fuck, Sonny? I mean, he's a kid, so he's nowhere near as bad as fucking Jared Fogle here.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on adults who try to meet kids online for sex.
Oh, please, sir.
Okay, moving on. Jesus Christ. Lambert. Lambert is adorable, sort of the Eeyore of the group. Very downtrodden, apprehensive, and fear-driven, but his friends love and support him regardless. He's more or less a comic foil to everyone else, but he's still very lovable and charming. And as for Rudolph Gore Slimy, he's not a character. He's a plot device. He shows up at the beginning, gloats about how great he is, he hears about Theodore in the race, and he tries to sabotage him. He's a narrative tool. And there's literally nothing to him except his goofy villainous name. Shame, cause with a name like that, he could have been a pretty entertaining bad guy. Oh well. Yeah, Rudolph. Fucking whatever. While the characters are not very fleshed out, hell, they don't even have arcs, their characterization is strong and their common goal to win the race is enough to propel the story forward. At A snail's fucking pace, mind you, but I digress. Something I actually do like is they subvert the whole evil businessman fucks over humble artist trope. Even though Abdul is a goddamn pedo, he does support Theodore through and through, and they both end up getting money in the end, so... yeah, that's nice. Still, have this motherfucker arrested. The film gets by on its simple execution and a Wallace and Gromit-esque tone and charm. But now, I gotta gush. I absolutely have to praise the hell out of the titular Grand Prix itself. Holy fucking Moses. This is the mother of all finales. Some of the best stop motion and filmmaking in general I've ever seen. I wouldn't be surprised if George Lucas saw this and got inspired to do the pod racing scene. It's absolutely exhilarating. And what's so brilliant about it is that this 20 minutes follows a solid 3-act structure and expertly keeps you hooked on each dramatic turn as it constantly seesaws between the heroes taking the lead and falling behind. It builds incredible tension, legitimate stakes, and heart-pounding intensity, and it's very sparing with the music. It never uses it as a means to let the audience know what to feel, rather it lets the high-octane car action speak for itself. The character interaction is on point, the commentator's voice keeps you locked on the screen, the cinematography is immaculate, and the animation, by God, just so good. This scene is a goddamn masterpiece, and it's the main reason why this film has had such an impact. I cannot believe the craft on display here. Even though I can definitely pinpoint certain film techniques used to accomplish such effects, it's still so seamlessly executed. It's high art. No notes. Bravo! The Pinchcliffe Grand Prix may have egregious pacing issues, surface-level character exploration, and a goddamn child trafficker, but its merits shine so bright that it's easy to see how it's earned such a legacy and why it's so beloved by its country. I have a great admiration for the craft behind it, and a huge respect for the filmmaker's efforts. And while I do enjoy it, I'd be lying if I said I didn't skim through it to get to the good parts. If you want to watch it, there's a 4K version on YouTube, though it's not subbed or dubbed, so you're kind of on your own with that one. But it's also available dubbed and subbed on, say it with me now, Internet Archive! Ha ha! Oh, Archive, you're so awesome! Anyway, there you go. Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. Check it out. Benny's Bathtub. This hidden gem from 1971 Denmark is a cult classic and is even part of Denmark's cultural canon as chosen by its Ministry of Culture. It's a celebrated and hailed piece of Danish animation cinema, so as you can imagine, I was very much intrigued. It's about a young boy named Benny who is tired of the boring world of adults. So, with the help of a magic tadpole he finds in the river, he ventures into his bathtub and has a whimsical adventure under the sea. The main thing that sparked my interest was the animation. It utilizes intentionally childlike painterly cell animation backdropped by black and white photographs to create a unique clash of styles and to hammer home the monotony of the outside adult world. This contrasts brilliantly with the psychedelic, vibrant, exuberant colors of the bathtub world. A lively rainbow ocean of 70s tie-dye insanity, filled with bumpin' jazz music, rambunctious skeleton pirates, a trippy octopus, and topless mermaids. Wait, what? Yes, this film is certainly odd and quirky, and it's easy to see why it was so popular with its cult audience in the 70s, and I very much appreciate it for what it is. Unfortunately, I must confess, I didn't get much out of this brief viewing experience. It's only 42 minutes, so it's not like it asks too much of you, but it also doesn't give me much to talk about, or even spoil. Each set of characters we meet is just there to tell a nonsense story or gloat about how cool they are, or how big their tits are, and Then we move on to the next thing. There's not much character to the characters, not much story to its premise, and not much meat on its themes. The most I can say is, the film is about the wonder and excitement of childhood, and how the silliest and most meaningless of activities can hold so much value. And that's something to hold on to as you get older. It completely indulges in the limitless imagination of youth, and how it's an important thing to keep exercised so you never become a jaded, boring adult. A very well-meaning and universal message to convey, and it's definitely the strongest aspect of storytelling this film has, which is accentuated by its dazzling visuals. But unfortunately, the thematic nuance of this movie doesn't go that much further. For a film that takes place in the ocean depths, it's unfortunately not that deep. Even so, Benny's bathtub is certainly a quaint feature. There's a jovial charm to it that makes it an interesting watch, to say the least. I can't say it's anything amazing, but it is odd and unique enough to warrant a viewing. It's on Tubi, and it's only 42 minutes, so there you go. Now, on to the next movie. Huh? Oh, hold on. What's this? Okay, so apparently there are socialist undertones in the movie as a marker of Denmark changing into a welfare state in the 1970s despite not being a socialist country. Well, I'm not talking about that shit.
Hvad er du for en? Er du en børnelokker?
Børnelokker? Nej. Jeg er ornitolog.
Is that what he calls it?
Motherfuckers. This film is based off of a French comic series, is written by its original creator, and is brought to us by Ankama of Dofus fame and Studio 4 Degrees Celsius of Tekken Concrete fame. These are two absolute powerhouse animation studios that always deliver on visual flair, vulgarity, and flashy action scenes. And while Motherfuckers certainly has that going for it, this is a seriously unimpressive, clunky, awkward, and trite mess. Like, it's actually surprisingly bad. So why did I say I enjoy it, recommend it, and put it on this list? Because I'm a dirty, rotten liar, and this movie is actually crap. It's only here because I really want to dig into this shit and elaborate on how this is both studios' weakest efforts so far. Still, if you want to check it out, I guess it's not the biggest piece of shit in the world. It's just all style and no substance. The story is about a 22-year-old Angelino, who one day gets hit by a truck which awakens secret superhuman powers he never knew he had, and something his late mother tried to protect him from finding out. As he comes to realize these powers, he is hunted down by soldiers who bear a striking resemblance to him. Angelino and his friends Vince and Willie are thrust into a wild goose chase, where they themselves are the wild geese. They try to uncover the reason for Angelino's powers and all the ensuing insanity around them. A pretty standard plot, but there are some massive problems that inhabit it. In fact, there are 3 crucial problems with this movie. 1. The characters. Our protagonists are excruciatingly bland with very little defining traits and personalities. Angelino is your basic reluctant hero, and he stays that way throughout the film with no real big change to his character or outlook on life. Vince is a supporting role. He's literally just there to fill out the roster, and I honestly couldn't tell you a thing about him. And Willie is the only one with a potential character, as he's a hyped-up druggie who Angelino and Vince don't really like all that much, but that aspect of their relationship is never explored. We're given very little reason to care about these 3 and their conflicts because the film is far more focused on the action, which leads us to the second problem. The action. The action is surprisingly awkward, sluggish, and does not have the impact that either Dofus or Tekken Concrete had. There's a lot of dead air and a lot of moments you know the filmmakers are trying to hammer home as, whoa, holy shit, that's so cool! But none of these big, grandiose moments are earned, likely to leave the viewer very underwhelmed. And 3, the story. While there may not be any inconsistencies with the story, it's also very unspectacular, unimpressive, by the numbers, and not compelling in the slightest. And I will be spoiling the twist of the movie, not that it matters because it's extremely derivative and not very original. Okay, so it turns out the reason Angelino has these powers and is being chased is because he's a hybrid species of alien and human known as Macho. The Macho alien race have infiltrated Earth many generations ago, secretly breeding with humans to reclaim Earth for themselves and eradicate mankind. That's Thrag. That's Thrag from Invincible. That's literally what Thrag is gonna do in Invincible. Now, look, I'm not crying plagiarism or anything. There are plenty of reductive similarities between both narratives that can be easily explained away by sheer coincidence. I'm just saying this is not a very original writing device, and it's nowhere near as compelling an execution as it was in Invincible. These are the 3 main setbacks that really castrate the film. It has very little going for it in terms of substance, and as a result, it's hard to be invested. Even upon Angelino discovering his alien identity and getting brainwashed by the leader of the Machos and fighting back all that alien brain probing to eventually save his friends, he doesn't go through any character changes whatsoever. He stays the same, morally just, bland archetype of a protagonist he always was. It's very disappointing. And as for Vince and Willie, yeah, no arcs whatsoever. Nothing. Barren as a fucking Saskatchewan flatland. Another problem this movie has is it tries way too hard to be edgy, gangster, and meta. And it's unbearably cringe in certain parts. Like, take a look at this scene. The characters are in a car chase, gunfire is going off, and everyone is panicking, and then this happens.
What the fuck is going on? Where are those horrible tentacled creatures from? The movies have never been this insane! And how does Vin stay alive with his head on fire?
Am I the only one who thought that was lame as fuck? Like, oh wow, look at how crazy this story is, we're so unhinged. Yeah, fuck you. The film is littered with moments like that where it brings attention to its own ridiculous antics, thinking it's so audacious and clever for it, but in reality, it's just super cringe. I was legitimately let down by this movie. I tried so hard to enjoy it or find something of value, but upon finishing the film, I was left with absolutely nothing. So unbelievably stupid. I can't believe something so uninspired and devoid of substance came out of these studios. Like, I may have my problems with Tekken King Creep, but at least it had a point! What was the point of this story? What was learned? Because I'll tell you this much, the Machos are still doing their interspecies breeding. That was never stopped. The Machos will still claim Earth in a century or less, so yeah, we're pretty screwed. God, what a stupid movie. I mean, it's really bad. Misfit underrated animation, more like a blunder-rated animation. Cause it's a blunder. Anyway, you get the idea. It's not good and not really worth your time, but I wanted to shit-talk it regardless. Anyway, I'm sure this next film will be much more uplifting. Jesus Christ. Kill It and Leave This Town is one hell of a title, goddamn. This movie is gruesome, unpleasant, at times very difficult to watch, and it's all intentionally done to evoke a visceral, uncomfortable response from the viewer, and it does so to incredible success. It's less of a film and more of an expressionist mural of the director's emotional state. Mariusz Wilczynski paints a graphic picture of what the premise details as a man escaping into the confines of his mind after all of his loved ones pass away, so that he may live in a world of memories where they're all still alive. Utilizing scratchy contour lines, a deep blue vignette, a blend of 2D hand-drawn and stop-motion paper animation, and intimately disturbing images, this film creates a ghostly image of a tortured, anguished mind. However, as good as it is at accomplishing its goal, it also has no real narrative structure, no real character development, and no real climax either, making it hard to review in that regard. It's really a series of memories and what-if scenarios that the protagonist and director put themselves in as an omniscient observer. In fact, there are 3 particular scenes that stood out to me as particularly tragic. The first is early on in the film where Mariu's withering mother is laying in her hospital bed, barely clinging to life, asking her son to tell her about his movie, only for Mariu's to respond with short, annoyed, irritable responses, and soon just leaves her altogether. I can only surmise that this is a sad recounting of a real-life incident, and a deep regret of the director's, ignoring his mother and her enthusiasm for his passion moments before her death. Another emotionally damning scene is shortly after, where he desperately asks a sorrowful woman to dance with him, but her self-esteem is so shot that she initially says no. Marius persists until they finally end up sharing a brief moment of human connection, a small reprieve from the tragedy surrounding them. And finally, my last favorite scene is the ending. And don't worry, it's not really anything I can spoil. Marius is surrounded by ships of people celebrating, dancing, making love, and ogling the giant, lonely man observing them. Our protagonist witnesses his parents in love, dancing in the moonlight, sharing all the best experiences of their time together. Again, this is mere interpretation, but I imagine this is Marius trying to make peace with his fractured relationship with his mom and dad. He may never be able to see them again, but he knows that they're at least together now, and they can be happily reunited for eternity. But soon, the music fades and the celebration stops, and all that's left are the quiet waves of the ocean, as Marius returns to the emptiness that engulfs his psyche. It's a very confronting, haunting, lingering piece that stays with you long after it ends. And it becomes even more poignant when you hear the director speak about it. He mentions in this artist statement video that this film took him a quarter of his life to complete, that it's a portrait of himself, his life, his hometown, and that it's filled with conversations he wished he had, or wishes that he could redo, and the regrets that he'll always live with. Knowing that gives me so much more appreciation for this artwork. It makes it so much more arresting, effective, and authentic. Which leads us to theme and symbolism. This makes up the majority of the film, as one would expect, since it doesn't have much character or story to dissect. The film showcases imagery revolving fish, crows, and water. And considering what they symbolize, it makes perfect sense. The dead fish symbolize the depths of the unconscious mind, which is where the movie takes place. The crows are a symbol of a profound connection to the spirit world and the world of the living, which is where our protagonist pendulums in between. And water is a symbol of renewal, which is what our dear Marius is striving desperately towards. It's very well chosen imagery for subject matter like this, and it's woven brilliantly into the essence of the film. I must admit, though, this isn't the kind of movie I'm just gonna pop on whenever I'm bored. It's something you gotta sit down and really absorb, and it's a lot to take in. I would recommend one viewing just to see if it's your cup of tea, but if it's not, that's totally understandable. It's a very intense, ugly, and difficult experience that is most definitely an acquired taste. Kill It and Leave This Town is one of the most surreal, grotesque, and oddly hypnotizing pieces of art I've ever seen. It's a dive into the tortured mind of an artist in its most raw, uncompromising form. David Lynch would be immensely proud of such an accomplishment. And while I certainly am glad I saw it, it's also not something I'll be revisiting anytime soon. Unless, of course, I want to traumatize my friends. And, that's really all I got for you. Thank you for indulging me yet again with these Misfit reviews. I hope you enjoyed them, and now, here's my actual live reaction upon finishing this film.